Yeah,
Joe,
exactly.
today there was an article that came out that said that the Pac-2 has not made a decision yet or given any clarity to the college football playoff in reference to what they're going to do with their automatic bid. I'll let you start off here. What are your thoughts on the Pac-2 not giving in on their automatic bid?
Yeah, I just don't think that they've got any footing right now. I don't think there should even be an argument. This is being brought up in this discussion of moving from 6 auto bids to 5 and 7 open qualifiers. I don't think that they've got any ground to stand on. This isn't going to happen. They're not going to end up being in the mix. And I brought up earlier at the beginning of the show, unless they realistically convince the Mountain West to form the Pac-12 and become its own conference, even if that does happen, that's still a G5 conference. We need to maintain the fact that it stays as 5 and 7. I do not believe that there is any ground for Washington State or Oregon State or any of these Mountain West teams to be considered to be a Power 5 conference, and we shouldn't be forced to let them into the playoff because they feel like they have that footing.
They do have the footing legally.
Yes, they do legally.
Why should they give in?
I'm not saying that they shouldn't give in and they're going to fight their fight, but as an outside spectator of this, I think it's a waste of time. Don't you agree?
I agree that it's a waste of time. I don't want, Oregon State or Washington State to constantly be in there when they don't deserve to be in there. I agree as a spectator. I don't want them in there. I do fear that they're going to that the Pac-2 is going to do, is going to probably take legal action, and the college football playoff is going to have to pay them off to get them out of there. I don't know if you make them a group of 5. I don't know what happens here, but here's what I do know. Okay. I loathe. And when I say loathe, I absolutely despise the notion when anybody tells me that a group of 5 team deserves ever to be in a top 12 of a playoff.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? What about UCF, Mr. Blake? If UCF would have faced some of these teams that were in the 4-team playoffs, they would have gotten their teeth kicked in. And I just got to tell you, the Pac-2 is going to be the exact same. Joe, Washington State is going to have an Adam Sandler-sized brown bag dookie dump lit on fire if they get to the playoffs, and they're going to get their teeth kicked in. It's going to be worse than Georgia TCU. Excuse me. It's going to be bad. Why do we do this? Pay them. Get rid of it. That's all I got to say. I mean, we never have answers. We need a commissioner.
Which maybe we get soon. But to your point, teams like Tulane and Cincinnati, they're outliers. Those are not teams that we get on a consistent basis. The team that we had with Liberty is more in line with what we get with the best G5 team. That's what's the most realistic. And despite them putting up their best effort, got smoked by a skeleton Oregon team. Smoked. Wasn't even close. It was close for like a minute, and then they got smoked. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think that's the most bullshit part of any of this, that there's even any, a little pat on the head. You guys get to participate too. You guys get to be in this too. Go ahead. As somebody who follows FCS football, and that's a 24-team field, there are plenty of teams from these lower level conferences, a non-scholarship conference to that in the Pioneer League, that puts teams out and they get smoked every single time in the first round. It's almost never close. So I don't need to see that. We have enough of an example with the FCS to say just because they're a playoff does not mean that we need to offer up opportunities for them.
I just don't want to see it. It's the reason why I didn't want to see Florida State in the playoff. I'm just being real. I honestly think Michigan. If Michigan would have played Florida State in the Rose Bowl, let's be real for just a moment. What would have happened?
It would have been close. It would have been fine.
That concludes tonight's show. They would have gotten Patty smacked.
I think they would have put him just as close as Alabama did.
No, they wouldn't have. Yeah, don't you dare say Jalen Milroe was as bad as what we saw at the quarterback position from Florida State the last 3 weeks that they played football.
Florida State, okay, I'll agree on being a little bit bullish, but it would not. It would have been at most a 7-point football game.
What?
It would have at most been a 7-point football game.
They would have beaten
Michigan
by 21 plus.
That's not true.
They
Tate
can't
Rodemaker.
score.
Tate Rodemaker. We did this already. Tate Rodemaker might not have been great, but he was competitive. They weren't winning. They weren't. They would not have beaten Michigan. I will not. I don't disagree.
They barely could score 7 points against Florida or Louisville, and you think it's going to be a 7-point game?
Washington got their asses kicked because they didn't have the bodies on their offensive or defensive line. Florida State has that. Florida State at least had
Washington
that.
Could score and did.
They would have kept Michigan out of the end zone. They would have stopped the run game way more.
Washington wouldn't have passed the 50-yard line. I mean,
they would have put points on the board.
50-yard line.
They would have held Michigan under 20 points, 21 points, and they would have at least scored one touchdown. I'll concede 10. I'll give you 10.
You know what it would have been like?
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.